And we are live. I think we live. I think we are live. Audio check. Audio check. Can anybody hear the audio? Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. My name is JH. How y'all doing, Postal family? Is everybody good? Is everybody cool? Everybody clean? Are you crisp? Are you feeling irie today? Setting the mood. Setting the mood. All right, let's see who's in the house. I don't know who that is. Soul Pimp, Anna. Hello. Hello, Anna. Chooch, how you doing? Johnny, what's going on? And don't have me squinting my eyes. Soul is here. Okay, cool. How's everybody doing this evening? I'm going to try to make this as painless and painful as possible. Tonight we have Mr. Mike Caref on. How you doing, sir?
Doing good. I didn't know this was going to be painful, but hey, you got to take the good with the bad.
Got to take the good with the bad. It can't be worse than what Renfro just went through. I don't know if you heard or saw.
I saw it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I heard about it.
Oh, man. Let's see. Hello, Curious Phoenix. Divine Shine, Level Up, Aaron, Tracy, Bouse. What's going on? You and I spoke behind the scenes the other day, and you were mentioning a couple things. And just to speak in general, I do my videos based on what's going on here and now, and I know that a lot of the carriers are pretty vexed at what they've been experiencing when it comes down to trying to get through the Renfro, and they feel kind of helpless at this point. They feel like their voice isn't heard. They also feel like all these charges that you guys keep bringing up against them are pretty much useless. It's just more of a, just there, just to say you did it or tried. I say kudos to you because at least I hear it coming out of your mouth saying, hey, this is what we're trying to do. But then you have the upcoming election thing coming up, man. A lot of people are scared that he's going to be negotiating. And even if he gets in there, some people create damage and then leave somebody else to try to fix it. Talk to me, man. What you got going on behind the scenes so the people know?
Yeah, look, man, the most pressing issue, even though it's not tomorrow, is that President Renfro is poised to lead us in contract negotiations again at the start of next year. The negotiations will begin February 23rd, I think it is, 90 days before the expiration of the contract. And it's just a scenario that nobody wants. And, Brother Renfro he's not accountable to the members that he's supposed to represent. And his process is horrible. Dragging that thing out forever, keeping us in the dark about what was going on and the status of everything, and then just getting a result that was resoundingly rejected, and then just implementing the result anyway was just, man, it just left such a dejected feeling amongst your average letter carrier, your average member of the union, so much so that I saw your episode about, what do we even have a union for? Whatever. And people send it to me. They say, hey man, this guy's telling y'all to quit the union. And I don't think that was your point. Your point was that the union has to deliver.
Right.
The union has to be something of significance. The union has to mean something to the craft employees that it represents. And when it's not, and everyone just says, oh, that's okay, you're really not helping the union, because the logical conclusion of that is, like you said, what's the point of having a union? So um, people are trying to figure out what the next steps are. And there's a lot of ideas out there. I don't have all the answers, but I want to be part of the solution. And the solution all leads toward us as a union being able to make the decision that we want somebody else to negotiate our next contract, which If they would have just set the thing for, because you've been around a while, you have 3-year contracts, 4-year contracts, 5-year
Right.
contracts, whatever. And if they would have just set it for 2027, we wouldn't even have all this angst, because we're going to have an election in 2026, and I'm very confident that the members are not going to go down that same road again. But with negotiations starting in February of 2026 and the contract expiring in May of 2026, our convention being in August of 2026, and a new president coming in December of 2026, that's just not a good timeline for us. So what can we do to affect that? And there's a few different things that are going on. There's a meeting tonight. There's a section of the Constitution, Article 3, Section 2, that allows for uh, the members of the union or the branches within the union to call for a special meeting to consider our approach to the next round of collective bargaining. Well, that would be the purpose of this meeting. So
Right.
they're having a meeting tonight of any branch president that wants to. I think it
Is it
started,
tonight or is it tonight or is it tomorrow?
it's tomorrow. You're right. I'm sorry. I got my days confused.
I think, yeah, they
That
sent it to me in
Okay.
the chat, and I was like, I thought it was Tuesday.
No,
That's
no,
why.
no. Good call. Good call. It's tomorrow, because I meant to make a couple of calls. I'm not a branch president within the hierarchy of the union. I'm a representative of the national union. I'm the national business agent in Region 3, which covers the state of Illinois. Within Illinois, we have like about 40 different branches. The branches are the ones that really need to mobilize here and get active. I play my role on the executive council. Sometimes I'm successful, sometimes I'm not, but that's where my fight is at. But the branches, the branches make up the union, and that's where they have that power. So I definitely want to encourage my branches here in Illinois to get on that and get part of that movement. Then there's the movement to just straight up just ask them to resign.
Right.
And I know I saw a letter that came out of Branch 3 in Buffalo. The members drafted up a letter. They went to their meeting. They say, we want to pass a motion that we're gonna pass this letter. I mean, we're gonna sign this letter as our branch. And they approved it, and they sent a letter in. Um, your brother, Unconscious Thoughts,
Yes.
he has come up with a petition, and maybe he's not the only one, because I think there might be someone else that did the same. But anyway, he has a petition that is same thing. Regular Any carrier can sign a petition asking for the resignation of Brian Renfro.
Hmm.
Then you have the National Labor Relations Board. I know one of my guys here in Chicago texted me today, and he's like, he sent a message to the board to ask them a question. Would it be a possible charge if we voted down the terms of the tentative agreement and you went in and the president implemented them anyway? And the
Right.
response from the National Labor Relations Board was, well, that's something worth looking into, because it could be a violation of your duty of fair representation. You're elected representative, you have to represent your members. Your members said, we don't want this contract, and you implemented it anyway. So that's a possible charge through the National Labor Relations Board. And then you have charges. So Article 10 of our Constitution says that any member that feels that there's an officer of the union that has violated the terms of the Constitution or was negligent in their duties, either or, you
Hmm.
can make that allegation in the form of a charge. And then it lays out how that process plays out. And so there's some news on that. There was a guy named Michael Rivera. Is it Rivera? Yeah, Rivera, from Branch 70 in San Diego, California. And he got together with some of his co-workers, and they drafted a very, well thought out, extensive charge against President Renfro and against the executive vice president, Paul Barner, for his role in the collective bargaining process and his role in the communication process. And he laid out why he thought they failed us in that. And he laid out why he thought there were violations of the Constitution inherent in that. And then he just kind of went into these, I got these questions that I need answered, and, all of that. And he kind of presented it all in a letter. And the executive council, they, the executive council met last week, and it was weird. So, I know most of the people listening or looking on today are not constitutional experts, but we on the executive council have been dealing with charges over the last couple years against President Renfro, really any officer of the union. There's 28 of us that are officers of the union.
Hmm.
Nobody's brought any charges against me yet.
Okay.
But they could, anyone can bring charges against any officer of the union. And so what I'm saying is that the people on the executive council are well schooled in what the language of the Constitution says. And the language of the Constitution is crystal clear. When a member brings forth an allegation, then the next step is to appoint an investigator to look into that allegation and establish the facts. Then the executive council reconvenes and the executive council determines if that charge is substantial or not. And if it's substantial, then you're going to have hearings and then you go through the decision making process. If you find that that officer is in violation of the Constitution or they're negligent, then you have four options. You can reprimand, you can fine, you can suspend, or you can remove them from office. And any decision you make at that point is subject to appeal by the members of the union at the next convention, which would be 2026 in Los Angeles. So, with that process in mind, we had an executive council meeting. One of my, my brothers on the council made a motion that we dismiss the charges without appointing an investigator. Yeah, I see that look. And that's the same look I had. I was like, whoa. Um, so it was a couple of us in there. The vice president, James Henry, was in there pretty vocal. I was pretty vocal in there. And we said, no, you can't do this under the Constitution. And they said, we're going to have a vote on this. And so I said, I want a roll call vote. I want to know exactly how every single one of you are going to vote, because if you cannot do the basic thing of upholding the terms of the Constitution, you shouldn't be on the executive council of the NALC. And we're definitely having an election next year. So at the very least, the members of the union need to know who is capable of performing the basic function of upholding the Constitution and who was not for whatever reason. And so we got a roll call vote, and I know exactly how everyone voted. And there was 14 people on that council that voted in favor of dismissing the charges and instead sending the brother a letter, basically explaining why they thought the charges weren't valid, which is not the process. You appoint an investigator and then you go from there. But that's what they decided to do. 14 of the council, 11 of us voted against, and 3 were not present at that time. So what's going to happen now? I already know this because I talked to Brother Rivera. He's going to bring charges against the entire executive council. Think about it. The executive council did not follow the
The
Constitution,
Constitution.
and that
So
is the basis for a charge. And so,
this this
if
is
and
this is where this I don't I mean to
go
cut you
ahead,
off, but
yeah,
this is
cut me
where it's
off.
disturbing for the people that are watching right now, because honestly, I did that video with no malice intended. It's just
Right.
information, but when they hear this, and I'm 1,000% grateful that you're being very transparent about it, but the members are saying, look, I'm paying my dues. I don't want that guy there. And now the people that are sitting up there are not even following the Constitution itself. They're hoping. There's 72%, 74% that don't want him there. And they're feeling hopeless and helpless, saying, look, how do we get this guy out? We fear that he's gonna, lowball us again, talk to his own, shop stewards like trash. What can we do? When people feel helpless, they react and they rebel. And this is one of the things that I wanted to ask you. If you were to be elected, what measures would you take specifically to implement and ensure that the rights of the National Association of Letter Carriers themselves are protected? And how would you prevent any one individual from undermining the association as a whole? because unions as a whole are strong, but they're only as strong as their leader. That leader up top is not doing diligence. They're looking to a Corey, they're looking to a Henry, they're looking to a Caref to rescue them. But when you got an executive board of people that are undermining them, they're saying, well, what am I paying my dues for? And it hurts. It hurts. They're, I mean, literally, whatever little bit of raise they got, it'll end up going towards whatever extra they paid for their health insurance this year. It went up a little bit, as well as their union dues. There's nothing delicious to eat from the bowl that Renfro served, his fight like hell bowl. So, um, we spoke before. I said this is gonna be one of those, push you to the limit things. And I appreciate, like I said, I appreciate you coming on here. But the whole thing where one person has so much power,
Yeah.
where you, Caref, you can't do nothing. Where Corey, a bulldog, but there's a fence blocking him. You know what I'm saying? It's like nobody can get to this man where he's untouchable, and he almost has a condescending smirk attitude tone towards the people that are there begging him. Look, man, please tell us something. Tell us something. Talk to me.
Yeah, so first of all, there's no way I'm going to be elected president of the union unless the members of the union take this thing back. I mean, that's a central part of my campaign is that the members of the union own this union. The will of the members of the union is my will. My agenda is your agenda, what you want me to implement, the things you want me to accomplish, that kind of thing. And right now, I say that because if I'm running to be a candidate, if I'm a candidate for the position, I have to be able to show you guys that we can be successful, right? That if you're with me and we put these things into play, that we're going to be successful in stopping a new contract that we don't want or whatever it is that we feel is damaging to us and our union. So I'm going to be, for example, at the 2026 convention in Los Angeles, we're going to be amending the Constitution. We
Talk to
were
me.
successful in amending the Constitution in a couple of ways, probably minor, but we showed that we can do it in 2024 at the convention in Boston. And that was, with my branch, my president, Elise Foster, and amendments that we brought forth from the floor of the convention, which for the NALC people that go to conventions and meetings regularly, is very hard to get things passed. And we
Hmm.
didn't even have the groundswell that we have now. And we were able to get things passed. And I'm very confident that in 2026, we'll be even more successful. So, one of the things we're going to do to campaign is send out a letter to every branch in the union and let them know we want you to sign on to and consider and look at and debate and discuss these resolutions that are going to bring democracy and decision making power back to the members of the union. And there's a lot of the proposals out there. We're just going to kind of gather them together, give it about a month or two because the convention is not until August of 2026. But we're going to put that out there. At the same time, I think that the charges are a valid way to address issues within the Constitution. And what I was going to say was that if you have a charge against the entire executive council, the executive council cannot hear that charge. And so we're going to be proposing a convention, a full meeting of all of the members of the union to hear that charge. And there's actually some history of that happening back in the 90s when somebody brought a charge against the entire executive council. They had a constitutional convention. And so we're going to push for that to happen this year, either separate or in conjunction with the National Rap Session. So I don't know how the APW operates, but we'll have a convention in the even years, and the odd years we have a National Rap Session. And we can certainly plan to have that convention in conjunction with that or on a separate date or whatever. So there's a lot of things in the works. And so I encourage everyone to get involved in that, so that one, they have some hope, and two, we can effectuate change and we can take back this union. Because that there should never be a situation where the members of the union speak and speak clearly and speak loudly, and the president of the union just ignores that voice completely. That should never happen. We have to put some safeguards in place, some legal parameters, so that never happens again. And we also have to deal with the current situation of the president still holding the power over collective bargaining and possibly, for lack of a better word, screwing us again. We can't let that happen.
Oh man, you mentioned something to me about a voting process. You want to elaborate on that
So
before we
that's
go
another
into some
thing
questions?
that's one of the constitutional amendments that we're looking at. And it's called ranked choice voting. And they do it, I think, in Washington State and a couple other places, some of the municipalities around the country. But for our purposes, what it would do would allow more people to run for office without having the concern of what they call splitting the vote. And so, for example, you look at President Renfro, wholly unpopular. Look at the results from the tentative agreement. The results were basically 2-1 against the tentative agreement. And so when you go to have an election next year, you're thinking, President Renfro only won, like say, 26% of that vote, or only 26% voted in favor of the TA. Let's say retirees can vote as well. He picks up a few more. Let's say he ends up with 40%. And it's not impossible, just because there's a lot of members that are not in tune with what's going on. His face is on the Postal Record magazine that goes into their mailbox every month. We vote via mail, you know,
Hmm.
and not everyone is out there kind of seeing what's going on. And if you're just reading the Postal Record, and you have a lot of retirees been out of the game for 20 years or whatever, you just don't know. There's no polling, but it's plausible that he gets like 40% of the vote, and then you have a split amongst other candidates, and then he ends up winning again, which is a scenario that we just cannot allow. Now, me personally, I don't support, and I think it's something you've brought up too. I don't support these undemocratic type actions where we tell people that they can't run for office, go sit down, it's not your turn. We're gonna support so and so because they're more well known, or because they have a more higher stature or whatever. Um, I think anyone should be able to run for the position that they feel that they're qualified for, and the members of the union make that decision. So the way traditionally you take out the incumbent is everyone gets together, and whoever has the loudest voice, or whoever, for whatever reason, we all get behind one person, and that person might not necessarily be the best person, and that person might not necessarily be the choice of all of the members. So with ranked choice voting, anyone can run. There's no concern about splitting the vote, because the way ranked choice voting works, and the simplest way to describe it is, if you have 3 contenders, you would take you'd see who is everyone's first choice. So let's say you had myself, James Henry, and Brian Renfro. Just to,
Hmm.
we have no idea who the candidates will be once we get to the nominations. But let's
Right.
just say we're looking at those people as the candidates for purposes of an example. If 40% want Brian Renfro, and 31% want me, and 29% want James Henry, that doesn't make Brian Renfro the president. What that does is, you take the lowest person and you take them out of contention. So now in that scenario, you would have me at 31%, and you would have Brian Renfro at 40%. And then
Oh,
you look at all of the ballots for the people that put, in this scenario, James Henry as their number one choice, right? And you say, okay, James Henry number one choice was 29%. Out of those people, who did they put as their second choice? Who did they want second? Did they want
oh,
me, or did they want Brian Renfro? And then those votes would transfer to the
runoff.
person
Okay.
who they voted for second. The only way you can win an election is by getting more than 50%. So they do multiple rounds until somebody gets 50%. If there's one candidate that gets 50% of the first choice votes, they're in. If there's not no one that gets 50%, you eliminate the lowest person, you take their second choice votes, you add it into what was the first choice votes, you tally those, and you see if someone has 50%, and you keep going until somebody has 50%. So it's a way to conduct the election in a fairer way and to allow more people to get out there and not have to be worried about splitting the votes and this and that, because it will never split. You'll always end up getting the person that you want. So it's a better process, in my opinion. I know there's people that are flushing it out. They're going to have conversations with the Department of Labor. They're going to have conversations with the people that have been on the election committee in previous years, and just make sure that it's feasible. But assuming that it's feasible, and all indications so far are that it is feasible, that's something we're going to push for in the 2026 election, so we can change the Constitution in 2026 prior to the election. Election for us will be next fall, and we change the Constitution next summer at the convention, and then we roll right into it next fall. One more thing I want to say on this is that I did go to Brother Henry because, as you know, he has a following, and there's people that want him as the president, and I got a following. People want me as the president, and there ain't no polling. I mean, I couldn't tell you that, I got the majority or he has the majority. I really have no idea. Of course, with the campaign, we kind of run our numbers and stuff, but we're just guessing. So I did go to Brother Henry. I said, hey, man, why don't you and I have like a primary, like a primary election, kind of the way they do in the president general election. You have a primary, then you have a general. I said, whoever wins between me and you, that'll be the person to go against Renfro, so that we don't have to worry about splitting the vote. But he told me no. He told me he was not interested. And so when he told me that, I started kind of trying to come up with other ways. And I heard
Hmm.
some people talking about this ranked choice voting. And I thought that's a great idea. So hopefully that will be something that will, gather some support, and then it'll get passed at the 2026 convention, and we'll do it that way.
Okay, so to be clear, you said that you mentioned to James about just chopping it up a little bit to see how the members felt, just personally between the both of you. And he said no.
That's correct.
Okay. All right. Well,
He didn't leave the window open too much either, just so you know.
I
Because I just thought it was a good idea, and I feel the feedback I've been getting from a lot of people. They thought it was a good idea too, because you know I think what you don't want to do is take away the democratic choice of the members of the union, but you also don't want to get the result of Brian Renfro as your president again. So you kind of got to weigh both of those things at the same time, and either one of those options would work, either having a primary or a ranked choice voting system. But the primary is something that would require the participation of all parties. Whereas the ranked choice voting, you just change the Constitution, and that becomes the law of the land, and everyone runs in that election, based on those rules.
okay. Like I said, I appreciate you coming on. I sent the same invite over to Mr. Henry to talk, to hear questions from everybody.
Okay.
I didn't get a response back yet, but what I will do at this moment, we did discuss this. I did tell everybody that I will be accepting 10 questions from them to you, not pre-selected. So I hope you're ready for it. All I ask is of my members that are watching, whoever it is that's watching, if you do call in, please be respectful, because this is the candidate that you're able to reach and talk to, regardless of whether or not you want to vote for him. Ask him your hardest question, and he could dance around it, or he can give you a straight answer. But please be respectful.
I don't even know how to dance, man.
Please be respectful. So in a couple of minutes, I'm gonna have somebody put the phone number in there, and just like I said, I'm only gonna take 10 calls, one question apiece. Ask away, and Mike's ready for it. And this is what y'all need. Because from what I saw, or I heard with Mr. Mr. Renfro does not like to be challenged at the end of the day. And
Hey, Jay, I'm
honestly,
gonna run and get a pen. Go ahead. You
okay,
keep talking to your people. I'll be back in
yeah,
30 seconds.
all right. Honestly, uh, Renfro doesn't like to be challenged. Y'all know that, and you're not able to talk to him directly. He cuts his comments off, and like I said it before, if y'all paying the dues, what's the purpose? I don't retract the statement that I made. I don't retract the video, obviously, because it hurts when people don't feel like they have a voice. But I think your Chooch is in the comments, and your Chooch or Eli, one of you guys, can you please drop the phone number? And obviously, guys you may be on hold for a few minutes, but just like I said, 10
Just like the
calls and
radio station.
there it is. Yeah, they might be on hold for a few minutes. All right. Anybody drop the phone number in the chat for me? Yeah, drop the phone number in the chat. Appreciate you. And you nervous? I'm nervous. I'm nervous. See what we got here. All right. First caller. Whoever it is that's on hold, please be respectful while talking to Mr. Caref. Let's talk. You're on with JH. Good afternoon. Hello.
Good evening, good afternoon, wherever you may be. How you doing?
How you
What's
doing,
going
sir?
on, man? What you got?
Man, how you doing, Mike? Thanks for joining us. This is Matt, aka the Chooch, 19-year carrier. How you been?
All right, my brother. Where you carry at?
I am a carrier in Pennsylvania, brother. Pennsylvania.
Got you.
There you go. All right. Well, I said, Jay's been asking. A lot of people been asking about the James Henry and connect. Maybe they call it a disconnect from where you stand. So my question is pretty simple, straightforward question. Uh, with Corey Walton, his popularity being very undeniable. Very, Corey is a name, is a face, is a voice, and he's in the CLC with James Henry, and we're seeing that James Henry kind of refuses tough questions unless they're pre-approved. If the CLC's influence is so strong, why won't James or Corey defend their record in an open forum? Why are they seemingly afraid members will find out? Like this is like burning in my head for a while now. Now that Corey has come to the forefront with James Henry, what's going on with the influence is it being strong? But why won't these guys take the questions? Unless they're pre-approved questions and defend in an open forum. That's my question.
Yeah, I didn't know that, man. I never heard nothing about questions having to be pre-approved and even so what I'm doing is I'm going on the what I call the Kick the Tires tour. So I not only come on the programs, but I'm traveling around the country. Tomorrow night I'll be in the Detroit area. Next week I'm in Cleveland, branch 40. The following night I'm in Santa Fe, New Mexico on May the 1st. And so I'm just like going around wherever there's a gathering of letter carriers, wherever they invite me, and nothing is scripted. They want to kind of generally hear what are my plans, what's my program, my platform, and then I just take questions, whatever those questions are, is never planned or scripted because the world is not planned or scripted. I mean, if you're going to be a candidate at this level, you have to be prepared to deal with the members' questions, comments, issues, concerns, everything that comes out in that type of forum. And I
Yeah,
don't
we're
know.
absolutely.
I don't know why anyone would look at it differently. I mean, I don't know. Like if let's say Jay's running this show, um, why would he script the questions ahead of time, or why would he even engage in that type of of a forum with someone who's a candidate for office within the union. I don't even think that's right
Well,
and proper. So,
I'm just
but
gonna I'm just
this is
gonna
the first I'm hearing
sorry
of
to
it, so I
interrupt.
don't know. Go ahead.
Yeah,
I'm
so
sorry, brother.
I mean, obviously Jay had James Henry on the first time around, and it wasn't. He didn't leave a very strong impression, to say the least. But when he's sitting in with Corey, it seems like Corey kind of becomes the kind of spokesman, and James kind of sits idly beside. So, you know, again, this puts us into a little bit of a more of a guessing game as to what, you know, this motivates, you know, him to do what he's doing with Corey coming into the play now. And you obviously, yes, you're being very transparent. Yeah, you're answering the questions. We like that. We sure as shit are going to throw your into the fire and ask as much as what's on our minds. So you saw obviously Renfro just can't take it. He can't handle it. And you know, we are just looking for somebody to be, you know, straightforward, answer questions, no bullshit. And we do feel that you've given that impression at this point, and we appreciate that. But you know, there's still a lot to be answered, you know, when it comes to Corey and James Henry's connection. So, you know, we just wanted to see, you know, I wanted to see, and I think a lot of people are just wanting to like not project James Henry as a puppet, more or less. But yeah, like I said, you're just one guy. We don't know much about, you know, your slate, if you have one at this point. That's not something that we're that's not something like, you know, that we're asking you to go and have all ready for us now, but maybe a little preview of, you know, who's involved with you. But yeah, it leaves a lot of questions in terms of Corey and how popular he is, and how he just kind of got pulled out as a trump card at this point. And that's no pun intended towards anything Trump related. That's just a saying.
All right, I got another call coming in, Chooch, but I'm behind the scenes. I'm aware that I mean, I'm not gonna speak on behalf of Caref, but you and Corey get along pretty well behind the scenes, right? I'm talking to you, Caref. Can you hear me? Is my
Oh,
mic
me?
on?
I'm sorry. Yeah, I
Yeah,
thought you were
yeah.
talking to Mr. Chooch.
Nah.
Yeah, no, me and Corey, yeah, we get along fine. We talk all the time. We're
Didn't he
you
pick you
know,
up from the airport the other
good
day?
friends. When I last time I was in Nashville, yeah, he picked me up from the airport, and we saw each other in Utah. We were both at the Utah State Convention maybe a couple weeks ago. I mean, James too. James been to my house. I've been. Corey's never been to my house, but he's been in my union hall. I've been to Corey's house a few times. But you know, we all look, man. Within the kind of leadership of the union, we all know each other. We're all, you could say the word friends or acquaintances, whatever you want to call it. We're brothers and sisters, and we've had a lot of interactions over the years. And I hope that, we can be friends and be friendly and be fraternal at the same time we have a disagreement about who should be that particular officer.
That's sitting up
And I
top.
don't know, man, just not that he straight asked the question, but I was definitely prepared to support Corey Walton as the director of city delivery. I thought that was a good fit for him. I thought he was, type of person that could really do some damage in that position. And, I was like, yeah, I could go for that. But now he's running for the executive vice president. And I'm like, oh, that's a little bit different set of circumstances there. It's a little bit more of a, you could call like political position. You have to deal with all of the people internal to the NALC. And he's been known to kind of cuss people out and call people names and stuff like that. And, I'm not dismissing it. Don't get me wrong. I'm not dismissing it. And I don't have a slate of candidates. I'm running for president. And when you guys get your ballot, you're going to decide who you want for president, who you want for executive vice president, who you want for vice president, whatever.
So it's individual.
It's
It's
yeah,
not.
you don't vote a slate anyway. And
But
as of
that
now,
comes out. A lot of people have that in their
yeah,
head. I got a caller waiting. A lot
go
of
ahead.
people have that in their head that they have to vote straight down row B,
Yeah,
straight down row A. Is
yeah,
that something?
nah, yeah, you definitely don't. And And I don't see the advantage of having a slate, because if you have a slate and I like some of your candidates and then I run a slate, that means my slate has to take out your people. And like, what are we doing here? I just want to make sure we have good quality candidates at all the positions. But back to your point originally, the president has so much power and authority in this union. You need to make sure you're making the right choice at president. Don't mess that one up. And the rest of the positions, of course, you want to make good choices there too. But the consequences of making a bad decision for some of the other positions are just not that impactful. As we saw this time, we did a horrible job vetting the candidate in 2022 in Brian Renfro, and we're living with that mistake. We're not going to make the same mistake in 2026. That's why I'm going around the country. That's why I'm making myself accessible. I'm letting people ask whatever question they want to ask, and let the chips fall where they may. I'm a member of the union like everybody else. I'm never going to lie to you. And whatever you ask me a question, I give you the answer. If that leads you to want to vote for somebody else, then I appreciate that, because maybe that's the
New
person
York
that this
pizza
union
or
needs.
Chicago pizza?
What's that? New York pizza.
pizza.
Man, I had some New York pizza the other day. It's better. It's
Thank
better,
you.
man.
Thank you. I'm gonna get a couple of my friends pissed in the chat. Listen, I got he lying right there. You a
But the
Chicago
food
guy?
in general is great in Chicago. I'm just not a big into the pizza, but
But the pizza's better in New York. Thank you.
yes, sir.
Thank you. I got my vote. I can't vote. I got a caller waiting. Let's see what he got to say. Caller 2, whoever it is, please be as respectful as possible, but please give him the business when you call in. Let's talk. Hello.
Hey,
Hey, who's this?
can you hear me?
Yeah, I could hear you. Your little echo.
Oh, hold on. Okay.
Hi, who's this?
This is Tia. I'm calling from Sterling Heights, Michigan.
Okay. Hey, Tia, how you doing?
I'm doing good.
You coming
How
out
are
tomorrow
you?
night here?
Probably not.
Damn.
Fortunately, I have multiple jobs, so I can't.
Oh.
I'm not gonna be listening.
You got a
But
question for Mr. Caref?
yeah, okay. So I've been listening, and I was listening to him talk about possibly if the charges are brought against the executive board, that the members can vote. But if I'm not mistaken, okay, at the last convention when charges were brought up on Winfrey before, weren't the delegates able to decide if he was going to be allowed to stay in or not? Because I just think that if we go that route, it's just hard to get him out of there. And I was wondering if it's possible to launch an investigation with the outside party to come in and just comb through everything, not only for him, but everybody else in there that might not be doing what they're supposed to be doing. And if that is possible, how do we go about doing that? And also, is there a way to find out who the 14 people were that voted down the charges?
Your business agent didn't vote. He was abstained, or he lost his connection. I'm not sure which, but he did not vote. What I told people is that if they want to know how a particular person voted, I will tell them, but I would rather not. I would rather you have that conversation as a member of the union with that member of the council, be it your business agent or one of the officers out of DC or whatever. But it's a public record, and it was clear prior to that vote taking place that this was going to be a matter of public record. So everyone is going to know how everyone voted. I just would rather see that process play out where you ask that person how they voted. And if you want to verify it, just ask me. I'll tell you how they voted. I got a list of how, of how
That's
each
what I was
person
going to say.
voted.
So I would have to go to each one of them and ask, or like, is there some place I can go and look up to see how they voted, or just tell me what I need to do?
Someone's gonna put it out, I'm sure, soon enough. So we'll know. Like I said, 14 voted in favor of sending a letter instead of hiring an investigator like the Constitution calls for. 11 people voted against it, and 3 did not vote, including, like I said, your business agent in Region 6 in Michigan didn't vote one way or another. So
So you say
there's no record.
11 voted against the charges.
It wasn't against the
Meaning there-
charges. So what it was the brother had brought forward charges, and normally, matter of fact, so the charges were against the president and the executive vice president. And so you had brought up a point of there being like an investigation or further information. And when the charge is against the president and the executive vice president, it goes to the vice president of the union to appoint an investigator. And James Henry, the vice president, he appointed Pete Moss as his investigator. And I hope that Pete Moss goes forward with his investigation so we can develop some of the facts. I mean, we want to know, when you had those hearings with the Dennis Nolan, which part was mediated and agreed to, and which part was arbitration. There doesn't appear to be any hearings or testimony or witnesses or whatever, but what exactly
and
went
we
down
can-
there, we'd like to know. What was going on
Right.
between the summer of 2023 all the way up until October of 2024 with contract negotiations? Was any progress being made? What was the pace of those negotiations? How many meetings were you having? What were you guys discussing? What was on the table? What was the progress at different intervals? All of these are questions that we all of us would like answers to as members of the union. So hopefully
And is
we'll
there
get that investigation.
Okay. Is there a way to possibly get the minutes of what was going on during the arbitration period? Is there a way to be able to request those or no?
The minutes of what?
What happened during arbitration between the arbitrators Nolan and Winfro?
Well, it was only 2 days, March 17th and March 18th. I don't know who was
I
keeping
know.
notes. There may not be an official record,
Mhm. That's what I thought.
Yeah. I mean, the other thing is, as President Renfro has been going around the country to different events, we need to not let him off the hook, kind of like what happened in Region 7 with Elliot Simmons. But, we need to know certain questions. And like I said,
Yeah,
Brother
because
Rivera
I
had,
don't like he let him change the subject when we asked him what did he ask for. He never answered the question. I didn't like that. We still don't know.
Yeah, I think he's supposed to come to he said he's coming to the Illinois State Convention. I think we're going to send him our questions ahead of time so that there's no bullshit in the game. Just here's what we want to know. Bring this information with you when you come, and this is what we want to talk about, kind of thing. So, I
But for
don't.
the record, there's no way to launch as members a third party investigation. Like, is there a way to be able to do that?
Maybe through the Department of Labor, it
Okay.
would be possible. But other than that, I don't know, because you can open up any investigation you want, but what would compel President Renfro or anyone else to participate in that investigation? Why would they legally have to participate is what I'm getting at. You can open an investigation tomorrow and you could ask President Renfro your questions, but he would only be compelled to participate if it was official business of the union or if there's an outside entity that's obligating him to participate in that.
Right. That's what I'm talking about. An outside entity.
Yeah.
That's
All right.
what I
I
want to do. Thank
got
you.
another call coming
You're
in.
welcome, Tia.
Okay.
That was a soft question, Tia. Go back to Detroit. Your pizza sucks.
No, that's
No,
Sterling
just kidding.
Heights, man. That's not Detroit.
All right, let's see what we got here. Caller 3, hello.
Hey, good evening,
Hello.
gentlemen. What's going on? How we doing?
How are you,
All
sir?
right.
Very good, very good. Okay, so here's the question. The CLC machine keeps pushing Henry, but the rank and file carriers are struggling with staffing, discipline, USPS cuts. When was the last time Henry actually fought and won for the members without Roy Walton holding his hand?
Oh my God.
You want me to answer that? I can't answer that.
You got to, bro.
You guys got to get James Henry on here to speak for himself, man.
Okay, my bad. I apologize, gentlemen.
Now,
Yeah,
one thing
get over
that I have a somewhat of an issue with in this campaign so far is that Corey Walden's been going around saying, you know, we need someone who's been on this workroom floor, who's connected to the letter carrier. And I can tell you, man, James Henry haven't carried mail. He hasn't carried mail this millennium. He hasn't carried mail since the 90s. He's been a union official for a long time. And, you know, I'm a type of person, I always go back and carry my route at least 1 week out of the year. I stay connected to what's going on the workroom floor and with the carriers. And I hope that's gonna serve us well. But as far as the questions you had about Brother Henry's record of accomplishment, I don't know. I can tell you another thing is that he really hasn't been in a leadership position much within the union. That's another kind of point of contention I have with him. He was not the business agent when he was working in the regional office in California. He was not the branch president. You know, he wasn't the person who makes the decisions, who has to move the group forward, who has to work together with everybody. And, you know, he's been the vice president of the union for a couple of years now, 2.5, going on 3 years, I think now. And, you know, where's the list of accomplishments there as the vice president? Not saying he hasn't accomplished anything, but, you know, where's your record that you can run on there? So, anyway, valid questions, but probably more so questions for him than for me.
Very good. Thank you.
All right, brother.
I'm sorry, Postal family. I tried to post the phone number from my actual account. I'm on my own account, my other YouTube account. I tried to post the phone number there and it wasn't posting. I blocked me somehow. I don't know how. I don't know if I'm subscribed to my channel. All right, so we got 3 good questions in, I think. That was pretty straightforward. Let me scroll through here because I think people have the opportunity, but they're not asking the questions. I got 10, and I'm missing wrestling for this. WWE, John Cena just won the title. Don't laugh at me, brother. John Cena just won the title yesterday at WrestleMania. All right, question. Blah, blah, blah. I just sent an email. No. Let's expedite rent frauds removal. No. I read a question from Anna here somewhere. My eyes don't move that fast. But if I can't get them up, then I think you getting off scot-free. Don't do that.
That's boring.
Blah, blah, blah. Blah, blah, blah. I really like Mike Caref. I don't know who that is.
That's my cousin.
There it is, right? Why is the postman this weekend? I didn't know that was a thing. They need to be one union. We should have gotten the money out of this contract. In your opinion, my question, in your opinion, I know that you guys have been doing the 1.3 thing for years. I knew that they were going to kind of aim for the 1.3 thing for years because I asked all the different unions. I have people in all the different unions. And I said, let me ask you to go on your Form 50s, right? And they were able to go back from years to years to years to see what their raises were. And I did research. And before he even put that 1.3% out, I said, I believe y'all are only going to get X amount of dollars. So what it ends up being is like, comes out to like $4,000 or $12,000 at the end of it, some silly number. And I understand that that's kind of the standard. Is it realistic, in your opinion, for them to actually ask for more? Do you think that the post office would ever grant more? Because ever since 2011, they kind of went backwards, and it seemed like they're giving them scraps. This is every union now. They just did this to the rural carriers as well. And I'm hoping that the APWU doesn't do the same thing. We get a little bit higher pay per hour, at the end of the thing, but is that a common thing that they always aim for, 1.3 to 1.5?
So it's a very common thing, and I think it's been going on even longer than 2011, probably for like 20 years now. And when they get into the bargaining sessions, they call it the pattern. They talk about the pattern of raises. In other words, if it's fair here, then it's fair there, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And the NALC was able to kind of separate itself from the pattern back in 1999. And this was, I don't know, you probably weren't around back then, but the APW and the NALC used to bargain together. We always
Mm-hmm.
had different, you still have it in the APW. You have different crafts that make different money based on your level.
Mm-hmm.
But back then, if we negotiated a 1.5% raise, everyone got a 1.5% based on the level that they were at, so we negotiated together. We split, or they split from, or you APW split from us. I don't know. It was a split at some point, and in 1999, we argued to the arbitrator that we should be a level up from a clerk, and they
Mm-hmm.
had a little button that said letter carriers work harder and they deserve more, and they had all these rallies and this kind of thing, and they won that, and so the letter carrier moved up a level from where the clerks were at, and it was still basically fair, but I think that the circumstances today, when you ask, is it possible? I think it's possible. And the way we got to go about it is that rule that says pay has to be comparable to those in the private sector of the economy of the United States. And there's a real straight comparison between a letter carrier and a UPS driver. The job
Now,
is very similar in nature. National delivery companies, we drive trucks, they drive a truck, we wear a uniform, they wear a uniform, we deliver, it's just very comparable. And the UPS contract is much better than our contract, our letter carrier contract.
oh yeah, I
uh,
follow that.
and so I think that we have a good argument that and that's one of the things that really pisses the people off that are members of the NELC, is that why didn't President Renfro go to arbitration and make that argument that it's
Exactly.
not comparable, that we should be, I mean, they're going to be maxing out at $49 an hour, and next year we're not going to get there. We're not going to get there in this contract anywhere close. They get 100% of their health insurance paid. They get their uniforms taken care of. It's a lot of things that we don't get that they get, and it only takes them 4 years to get to the top. Our contract
Yes.
takes us like
11.
14 years
Yeah.
to get to the top. So I think it's possible to break the pattern, but it's going to be a huge concerted effort. You have to put everything on the table, the comparability. Then you look at the letter carrier
Would you
job.
fight for it?
Yeah, hell yeah. Hell yeah, man, because I mean, this is what I've been kind of preparing for. The letter carrier job has gotten harder. It has gotten more dangerous. We're on our feet all day. The retention in the letter carrier craft. You run the numbers. How many people
See them.
try to make it as a letter carrier and they say, I can't do it, either because of the working conditions, the pay, or it's just a hard job,
Mhm.
So I think that you can put all that in front of an arbitrator and say, look, we deserve, not only do we deserve a higher pay, but it would be fair under the law, and it would help the Postal Service to be able to retain employees and fulfill their mandate, which is to have consistent delivery out there in the public. Because right now we don't have consistent delivery because
You don't have
half
the
of your
same.
employees are
Right.
irregular. They're irregular because they don't really care about the job, and the professionalism has gone down, and there's a lot of issues there that you can argue about once you get into contract negotiations. But to your point, it will not be easy. It will not be easy to break that pattern, because that pattern has been established for many, many years, but you have to show that it does not work. It doesn't work
So
anymore. It doesn't work.
I'm gonna start shooting some of these questions. So, Mike, why are you the better choice for president then? I mean, I like what you're saying. I really do. I like the fact that you want to fight and help change the culture. That's kind of my thing. I like the concept of being a great disruptor. If you were to go and present something like that and say, hey, USPS, my carriers over here, we've been giving them 1.3, 1.5 for the last 20 some odd years, but I want to aim for 5%. It may not be a realistic, but I don't want to do that 1.3% anymore.
Right.
Is that something that you're going to fight for? What makes you different? Why? Why are you the better choice?
Well, there's not just the contract, although the contract is the most important thing. But I think one thing about me as a person or a candidate, I'm a collaborator. I work well with people. I have a long track record of success. In all the roles that I've played within the union, I get along with people. I work with people. And I think that the strength of the union is when you bring everyone together and you collaborate and you work toward a common goal. And that's something that I've been able to do. You look at my region, which is the state of Illinois. We have regular meetings, we communicate, we plot, we strategize, we plan, and we fight, and we do it together. And if we have disagreements, we talk about them, and that's just the structure that we have kind of created. And that's the structure I'd like to have, throughout the entire union that we deserve and we should have. And then we get together and we figure out what we want to fight for, how we're going to fight for it, who's going to do the fighting, right? You got different people that have different skill sets and putting them in. I'm not a political person at all as far as you're with me or against me. No, you're a member of the union. I'm going to put you to work on behalf of the members of the union, whatever your skill set is. I'm not going to have someone on the sidelines because they didn't vote for me or they voted for this person, or I could care less. That's just not the way I operate. So that's why I think I should be the president. But hell, like I say, if the members of the union feel otherwise, I'll be more than happy to support whoever we do elect as the president next year. It just can't be Brian Renfro. Can't do that no more. Can't do it no more.
David Bear said when Corey Walton, the ADA arbitration turned into political campaign, I was done. That's not a question. I thought it was. Someone else says, why? Lost the question. I believe the question is, why isn't our back pay going to be given it all at once? Is that still speculation?
My understanding is it will be given all at once. It just won't be given until probably August or September. But they really didn't give us a date. I mean, that's one of the things that just irks me, man.
Is it going to be split into 2 checks? Because I said that on my channel. I thought it was.
2
Someone
checks.
mentioned that.
They haven't announced. I mean, they haven't even gotten close. So just Saturday, they upgraded the pay. So you have all these pay increases that go back to 2023 when the contract expired. You got a cost of living raise and you got a general wage increase from 2023. You have 2 cost of livings and a general wage increase from 2024. And you got a cost of living raise from the early part of this year. All of that is going to roll into your check, which is going to be your next pay. Well, not your next paycheck, because the start of the pay period is August 19th. The payday for that paycheck is May the 9th. So on the May the 9th pay date is when all of those raises will come in. It's about a 6.3% raise across the board at all steps. And that will end the back pay period. So now you know that between August, I think it's 26th of 2023, when we got that first cost of living raise, up until April 18th of 2025, that's your back pay period. So any monies that you were owed per hour based on the hours that you worked during that period is what they owe you. Now, we didn't fight to get interest on your back pay. We didn't fight to get a set date on when you're going to get your back pay. So the Postal Service is going to go ahead and process that whenever they get around to it. And we're anticipating August or September by the time they get around to it. And of course, they don't have to give you any interest on the money that they've been holding for you for the past 2 years, because I guess we're just nice like that here in the National Association of Letter Carriers.
Rich. All right. So let me be clear to my fans. They're not fans. They don't really like me. If I misspoke about the 2,
well, it could be
into
2. We don't know, but it'll probably come on 1 check, I think.
I've never seen it come into 2. I heard it mentioned before. It could be, but if it isn't, yeah, I apologize. I don't want nobody holding me. Jay said it will come in 2 checks. Okay, so Michelle says, don't split the vote. Tell me why you're not splitting the vote, sir. Please break that down for layman terms for everybody to understand, because people feel like the vote will be split.
Well, there's a lot of factors that are going to go into play in that, and one of them is who do we think is a legitimate candidate and who isn't. So people assume that Brian Renfro will be a candidate in 2026. I don't assume that. It's possible, but we got a long way to go, and he kind of shoots himself in the foot a lot and has really shown himself not to be a capable leader of the NALC. So if there's not a lot of support for the incumbent, then there's no concern about splitting the vote, because the other candidates, whoever they may be, will be able to kind of, put
Get the
their,
majority of the votes.
yeah, they'll get the majority and you put it out there. But we don't know that, and therefore I have the same concern that everyone does. Look, when people say split the vote, what they're really saying is don't make it so the result is Brian Renfro wins another term. That's what you're saying, and I'm with you on that. And that's why I said I went to James and I said, look, brother, we can't take away the members' democratic right to say who they want. If we start doing that, go down that road, I don't like it. We start making backroom deals. What we're gonna do? Flip a coin and see who's gonna be the president? I just don't like that. The members. That's to me. That's where you try to solve a problem by creating another problem. You know what I mean? Like, we have to do this the right way. The members have to vet the candidates and figure out who the best person is for, to be president of a union. There's no bigger decision that you make as a union member than who should be your president. And so I'm not taking that away from the members. I did propose we have a primary, and brother Henry shot me down. So I can't make him do it. I mean, by all means, if you guys want to put pressure on him to do it, we still got plenty of time to do it. There's different ways of doing that, where the members could have their say in some type of primary election. But if he's not willing to do it, there's no other way than to just have an election. And that's why I think that ranked choice voting is going to work out best for us, because that'll allow as many people as want to run, and you don't have to be concerned about the incumbent winning the election with less than 50% of the vote. Somebody's going to have to get 50% to win under the ranked choice voting system. So I'm a proponent of that, and we'll see where that goes.
All right, I love
But
it.
if all else fails, you guys, you're gonna have to, if I'm the only candidate that's not named Brian Renfro, who's trying to do what's best for the members of the union, then you're gonna have to vote for me. You know what I mean? Like, at the end of the day, you got to make a choice on what you think is best for this union. And if that's what you think, then that's what you should do. And we just have to have the numbers and win the election. Look, I've won elections before. I know how to count. I know how to figure out where the votes are at and talk to the people and all that. And I plan to win the election, no matter what format it takes. I think it'd be better to have a primary. I think it'd be better if we had ranked choice voting. But no matter what the format is, I plan to win the election.
Good, good. So let me address some of these comments that are in these people that are in the comments. So out of respect for every single member, they're all carriers, I'm assuming.
We assume.
You have to understand that people are allowed to have their own feelings and choices. Just because you may not like a Henry or you may not like a Caref doesn't mean that you can force your will on the next person. I see the people saying, well, if Henry gave a shit, then he would do a primary. Well, if Caref did this, he would be better. Everybody has their options and their choices. That's the part of the democratic process. That's all the way up to the real president of the United States. You guys going back and forth in the comments. This is what it is. You're going to have a choice between three if the third person's still there. And
there could be other
part of
people
the
too. I wouldn't, hey Jay, I wouldn't dismiss that there'll be other candidates.
right.
It's very possible.
But if you guys are not part of the union, like I mentioned before, if you do not participate and you're not paying dues, you don't have no voice. So to be clear, you don't have a voice. I told y'all how to get out the union, but I also mentioned that the moment you step out, you got to accept whatever comes your way. So keep that in mind. All of you all have the same long-term goals. and you just can't figure out who you want to get you there. Now, again, I put the invite out there to James. He just texted me the other day, and I'm still waiting for him to reach back out, for him to say, hey, he's willing to take the live questions. And the phone line is open. Phone line is still open. If you guys want to call, the man is here. He has spoken. He's not, he ain't hide from no questions. This is why an open forum, you get the opportunity. Y'all get the opportunity to talk to somebody sitting at the national level. Then you stay silent. What kind of shit is that? That's the disappointing part. The man is saying, look, ask me a question. I'll be as real as I possibly can. He didn't want to smear the ones that the people in the executive board. He said, the names are written. Go talk to your people first, and then you'll have that information. He pointed you in the right direction. I ain't hear him sidestep no question yet. And we got to be sure. You did say New York pizza is better than Chicago pizza, right?
It is better.
Okay, all right. So yeah, you got my vote. No, but seriously, y'all, everybody that's in the comments, y'all going back and forth. Oh, Caref's great. Caref's gonna be president. Oh, Henry's this and Henry's that. Y'all got to get together. There's like, carriers are never satisfied. Nobody's ever satisfied. They get $20 an hour raise, they still gonna be pissed.
Right, because we deserve everything, and I'm with them.
All right, let's see. What did I read here?
Try carrying mail for a week. You'll understand.
This guy's still here. You still on the line? Oh my
Damn right,
God.
I'm still here.
I didn't
laying
realize
in the
you were
cut.
still on the line.
I was waiting for the perfect time to chime in, you jerk.
Oh,
It was
man.
perfect.
All right, I believe says who the ranked choice voting since when? Oh my God, he refuses to join a slate. So why do you refuse to join a slate? We're gonna entertain this. I think I asked the question already.
Yeah, I wanted
mentioning
to
that.
talk a little bit more about that anyway. So
Talk to us.
the slate thing, man, everyone's caught up on it just because it's kind of how it's always been done. And it's not that I refuse to join a slate. It's that when you first start out forming a slate or a group, or however you want to call it, a group of officers running for positions, the first decision is who is going to be your candidate for president. It's always your first decision because, especially in our union, the way the Constitution is written, you've seen the president is over contract negotiations. Almost could be by themselves if they're that type of person. The president is the chair of the convention, which is the supreme body of the union. The president runs the executive council, which runs the union in between the conventions. The president does the hiring. The president makes the appointments. The president goes and talks to the media and to Congress. The president is the face of the organization. The president goes to the Postal Service and deals with the Postmaster General and the Board of Governors and all of that. So before you start talking about a group of people, your first order of business is who's your candidate for president. And so I always was very clear because I thought about running in 2022. I just wasn't able to do it personally. I knew I wouldn't be able to give my all because of some things going on in my personal life. So I decided not to run. But come this time around, I said from the beginning, once I got some of the things squared away, I said, look, I'm ready, willing, and able if you guys want me. And I think I have a good plan and a vision and the experience of how to accomplish these things, working with everybody that we can do it. I want to be your candidate for president. And there's other people that may disagree with that. So that's the first thing you have to figure out. Now, once I launched my campaign, because we kind of had me and some of the other people under that umbrella of the CLC. And keep in mind, the CLC was I was there at the first meeting just like everyone else was at the first meeting. Majority of people at the first meeting were people that I had told about that first meeting. So the CLC was not a group that I either joined or didn't join. We were trying to figure out what was this CLC going to be. And once I saw that they were not going to work out a good process for figuring out who the candidate for president should be, I decided I didn't want to be part of that. And there were a lot of people that thought I should be the candidate for president. And I was drawing the same conclusion just based on the fact that there was nobody else that was stepping up and showing that they had those type of leadership skills. You know, like for example, what I just told you guys about having a primary, you know, within the NELC, I brought that up right away within the CLC. I said, you know, this is silly. Let's put it out there. Let's have a primary and let the people in the union. I have emails I could show you guys where I sent it to the, you know, the people on the CLC board, and I said, I think this is a better way of doing this. But I'm not going to go along with something that is not either in the interest of the members or is not something that's going to be productive and successful. And I didn't like the way they were going about the business. And so we formed our own campaign. We formed our own campaign, the Care for Prez. And, you know, there's a lot of people working on the campaign with me. Obviously, I'm not doing it by myself. You have, you know, all these different, you have the website and the you know, the
Right.
Facebook, and you have the fundraising, and you have, you know, all of the videos, and you have the statements. And I'm not doing all that by myself. There's a whole campaign and group of people that are working toward getting me elected as president. Will we at some point work with other candidates as well? That's possible, but it's not mandatory. And I'm not going to dilute and create antagonisms and fights within our union just so I can say that I'm propping up a candidate for director of safety and health that's loyal to me. I don't care about that. I don't care that they're loyal to me or not. I care
That's
that
my department,
I
safety and
care that
health.
this is a person who is qualified and who is the person that the members of the union want in that position. And so, for example, you have business agents around the country. And when I ran for business agent in 2014, the first time, there was a slate that was run by the then president, Fred Rolando, and they put this slate together not based on who would be the best person for the job. It's just based on your political aspirations come together, and you pool your money together, and then, you know, you say we're all in, you know, I promote you, you promote me, we scratch each other's backs, and you know, you put that out to the membership. And in 2014, I was a candidate outside of that, you know, slate or whatever. And I still won the election because the members in my region wanted me to be their business agent. And that's what I want to see happen every region in the country. Pick the person who you guys think. You can only vote for your business agent within your region, those members within their region. You can't vote for somebody else's business agent. So when you guys go to vote for your business agent, vote for the person who you guys think will best represent you and do the best job for you guys. I'm not going to tell you how to vote. I'm not going to form a slate of people so that I can scratch their back and they can scratch mine and get each other elected. No, I'm going to run for the position that I think I'm qualified for, and we'll see what the members think, and that's president of the union. And everyone else is going to have to run for the position that they think they're qualified for, and they're going to have to stand up and be tested and be vetted by the members of the union. And if the members of the union, if they pass that test and the members of the union vote for them, then I think you're going to have a better person representing you than if I select the person, or you just take the next person who's in line, or you go through this political process that we've done in the past. It has not served us well. So that's the reason why I don't have a slate at this time. It could get to a point where I have a group of candidates that I'm working with that we recommend. Maybe we do, maybe we don't. I don't know. Depends on how that plays out. But I'm not running people against qualified candidates. If you have a qualified candidate out there, no matter what your political persuasions are, I'm good with that as long as the members of the union vote for you. I'm not going to feel the need to put somebody up against every single person so that the entire executive council, instead of being loyal to the members of the union, they're loyal to me as the president. That's the damn
Right.
problem we have right now. And that's
Oof.
something that we need to get around and get away from.
Wow, he spoke to it. So yeah, I get that. For those that need it broken down, means that if you go and you get up to the top with your own slate of people, that you got up to the top, and you the president, and you got your own vice president, everybody's handpicked, And then you got the members, us, the little people. Say, hey, I don't like the way this guy's doing things up top. I need y'all to handle that. Your slate is not gonna, the slate's not gonna go against the guy sitting up at the top. Is that what you're saying?
That's the problem I see right now. I see people on the executive council, like that last vote. It's very clear what the Constitution called for, and yet you had 14 people on that executive council that decided to do something that was obviously in contravention of the Constitution. Why did they do that? Is it out of loyalty to the president? Is it because they ran on a slate with that president? I don't know, but whatever the reasons are, they're not serving the members of the union anymore. They're serving their loyalties to that president, and that's not the way it should be.
Okay. If Renfro, I'm reading the question. If Renfro is not removed and will not resign, he'll be given first negotiations of the 26 contract. Are you, Henry, and everybody else ready for the uphill battle if he tries to rush that 26 contract, unlike how he slow walked the 23 contract? What do you think is going to happen?
Great question, and let's go back to the dates. So at the 2026 convention, and that's why I talked about I'm going to start sending out information to all the branches getting ready for the 2026 convention. We're going to get ready like at least a year ahead of time for the 2026 convention. And so all of those votes that are going to come up about constitutional amendments and things like that that are binding and that will change the powers of the president, all those things have to be considered and voted on, and we're going to modify the powers of the president at the 2026 convention. And so the contract expires May 21st of 2026. If there's a contract that he agrees to with the Postal Service, the first step is it has to go out for ratification to the members.
Mm-hmm.
This time it took about 90 days. They came to an agreement on October the 18th, and we didn't finally vote we didn't ratify we didn't ratify at all. The final vote tally wasn't until the end of January. So that's November, December, January. That's more than 3 months. Assuming that time frame is the same, if there's an agreement on May 21st, we, the members of the union, would have to ratify that by, let's say the middle of August would be when the tally would take place. So if we vote that thing down and we don't accept the terms of that agreement, and we change the Constitution in August, and then we go ahead and elect a new president who will be installed in December, then I think that sets up enough safeguards so that President Renfro won't be able to push through a contract that's not favorable to us in 2026. I think, but we all got to work together. We got to look at those resolutions. So, for example, there's resolutions that have checks and balances for collective bargaining. There's resolutions that require you to have to vote on any agreement, whether it's a tentative agreement or it's a mediation or whatever kind of thing. So you change the constitutional language to make sure that the will of the members is adhered to. And then if we get that, no matter if President Renfro is not removed, which is what the question is, then even if he's the president and even if he's over collective bargaining during that time, he will not be able to implement a contract that is not the will of the members. And then we get him out of office by December, and then we go from there. So
okay, cool.
That's the plan. We'll see what happens. But back to your point, don't quit the union. We need everyone on deck here. We need everyone involved in this process. We need everyone helping out. Everyone plays a part. Everyone's a member of a branch. Go to your meetings, bring this stuff up, make these motions, get involved. We need you. Your union needs you right now.
So I'm reading the comments and I'm gonna be that guy. All right. Foot Soldier watches me quite often. He says, this guy's just blowing hot air. George says, exactly. I'm just going to say, I wish that I could have Henry on here to blow some hot air as well. He wasn't here. So regardless of what y'all say or feel, he had the same invite. He just texted me 2 days ago. What's today? Monday? Yesterday. I think it was Easter. Yeah, yesterday. He has the same invite. So that you, the members, you could talk to him directly and ask him questions directly, not anybody else,
He'll
him
come on, man. He'll come on.
directly. So you could say this man is blowing some hot air or whatever, but at least he's here to talk. I have somebody else, and these are not pre-planned questions. I don't even know who's calling. So let's see if this is gonna be my last one in. Let's see who we got. Whoever's calling, please be respectful. Good morning, good afternoon. Hello.
Hello, JH and Mr. Caref. This is Kim from Chicago.
How
All
you
right.
doing, Cam?
I'm doing well. I do have 3 questions if I can.
One
Yeah, I
question.
mean, share with you just one.
One question.
Okay, Mr. Caref, what are you going to do for the new generation of carriers that will eventually be the future of the union? For example, my branch is concerned about getting younger carriers to care and to participate in union hall meetings.
I like that.
You said the participate in what? What was the last part? The very last part?
Oh, to participate in union hall meetings.
Union hall meetings?
Yes.
Yeah, so
Do I need to repeat? I'm sorry.
no, you talking about how to get the next generation of letter carriers more
The
involved
new
in their unions.
generation of carriers more involved. Correct.
Yeah, I
They need
think
to be.
I think that the main thing is that do they know that this is a union that's fighting for them? That I think is number one. Not to say that there's not a lot of other things that we can do as a union. Different activities for a new generation of people, different ways of doing things. But I think the main thing is people are not going to be involved in something that they don't feel is for them. And unfortunately, since 2011, in our contract at least, we've had this. We have the CCA classification, and then we have the Table 2 pay structure, which starts off a lot lower. You start off, your time doesn't count toward career, it doesn't count toward retirement. Your pay is a lot lower. It takes you a long time. I estimate it takes you about 10 years to get to like a middle class lifestyle, where you may be able to purchase a home or do some of the things like that that makes the job worthwhile, that makes the career worthwhile. So I think before people are going to want to be involved and dedicate themselves to this type of entity, the union has to show that it's there for them. And these discrepancies that we've allowed to fester in our contracts, I think has been a deterrent to that. I think it's turned people away. You know, the NALC has been a great union for people that started prior to 2013. But people that started after 2013 that are paying more into their retirement, where their first couple of years didn't even count toward retirement, where they're very low on the pay scale to start off with, where their costs have gone up and their wages have not gone up comparably. Those are people that don't feel like this is their union. So I would start there. I mean, I wouldn't end there, but I would start there. And then if you can show that, and you can show that we're fighting for that next generation of letter carriers, that this is your union, then I think you'll start to see more people come around. And then when that happens, then you figure out, how to make this more their union as far as, social activities and some of the culture, some of the way that people interact, the way the meetings take place. The newer generation doesn't read as much as
True.
previous generations, but
Mhm.
that's just the way it is. So you have to adapt. I mean, all of our stuff can't be in the written form when we have all these members that just don't really read that much anymore. So it's ways of doing those things. But I think it starts with, this has to be a union that people feel is their union.
Yeah,
Nice.
like in evolution, right? Like we have to keep up with time. And I do see within the contract, it is a language barrier for a lot of people. Like you said, people don't read, people don't have dictionaries. So it's kind of like a disconnect there, I noticed. And also knowing your history of your craft. I think that's important to understand your history and the value that is a historical craft, and people don't value that anymore. I noticed.
Right.
So that was my question.
Yeah, no, good question. And there's some core things
Thank
that'll
you.
transcend generations, and then there's some things that you're going to have to adapt to and change with, each generation and each grouping of letter carriers.
Mm-hmm. Thank you
All
so
right.
much.
Appreciate you,
You get
Kim.
off there for the other
That's
people.
Cam. That's Cam.
No
She got her
problem.
own little thing
That's
going on there.
Kim. Poet. All right.
Cam the poet. All right.
All right.
We'll chat later, dear. All right, Caref, I got a nice question for you. Um, this will be probably the last one. I'll try to catch the rest of my wrestling. Silver Stacker, we've spoken before. He says we need real solutions for these hostile work environments. I know once y'all sitting up top, it's hard because it is what it is when you're sitting up top. But you can't forget the little people, my guy. What concrete measures will you try to implement, and how quickly to foster a more respectful workplace for carriers? My department, we get a bunch of notations. We stick them up on the wall, no harassment, all this stuff. It looks like wallpaper. There's no real change. I'm right in the human resources hallway, and I was right across the hall from 3 new supervisors. They're doing supervisor training, fresh out of carriers. And just talking to them, I'm speaking on behalf, I was trying to get by the window so I could text, and just talking to them in general, their mindset, they're gonna be those are gonna be the ones where they're like, oh, these damn carriers. And I'm like, you're not even a full-time supervisor yet. You ain't even been doing this for 3 months. But these damn carriers, you were 204B, but now these damn carriers, that's gonna be a problem. I foresee it. They're young and they have that in their mentality already. And it bothered me. I'm like, I'm sitting next to 3 ladies, and every time I try to interject, they just keep jumping. No, you got to understand, when you send them back out, the problem is that they need to know that I said, they need to know what? That they need to be spoken to like humans first. You will carry over there, and you saying you didn't like to have to go back out. If they spoke to you respectfully, it lightened the blow a little bit. But yeah, they jumped on me. They don't know who I am. Not everybody knows me. And I just kind of listened, and it just gives me content to think about. But the question is posed to you because you the man.
No, that's one of the central questions of the day. And my answer is that we're going to get rid of the board supervisor. And everyone, when I say that, they look at me like I'm crazy. That'll never happen. But we're in a changing time right now, and there's a lot of eyes on the Postal Service. There's more supervisors now than ever, and they're less productive than ever. And we got to start making that argument that the board supervisor has no value, and the board supervisor really is just set up to harass the letter carrier. So within our craft, you have a manual that dictates how you do your work. The M41 manual that tells you, you do this with the mail, you do that with the mail, you load it up here, whatever. It tells you everything you're supposed to do within your craft, and you get training within your craft. And then you go out there and you do that job, based on that training and that manual and how it's laid out. What is the role of the supervisor in that type of environment? It's really, in its essence, to harass you. And the reason why we've tried all these different things in the workplace, like you said, to make it nicer and to make all these rules, and and we got to keep trying to do that stuff in the interim. There's a memorandum in the new contract, our new contract. I don't know if it's in the APWU. It's called the JWIP, the Joint Workplace Improvement Project, or something. I don't know what the P is, but it's it's not bad. It's something that it's a tool we can utilize where we have these hostile work environments. Of course, we have the joint statement on violence and behavior in the workplace. We've done a ton in my region in Illinois, and especially in Chicago, and dealing with managers, and we get them removed if we have to. If they don't modify their behavior, we get them removed. But it's like whack-a-mole. You go after one and another one pops up over here, another one. It's kind of like what you're saying. There's a natural antagonism, because the role of the supervisor is to try to get you to go faster, yet we have no street standard, and we're there to provide service to the American people. We're not there to go fast. So we're being judged by a standard, by a supervisor who's sitting on their ass all day about how fast we're going and how much time were you idle and stationary and sitting there, when really the standard should be what level of service did you provide today for the American people. But that's not the supervisor's standard. So to me, they're just an albatross. They're just an extra entity that costs the Postal Service a lot of money. And I'll be damned if we go into contract negotiations and they tell us they don't have enough money to give us a real raise, and you're paying all these supervisors all this money to sit around and watch us work all day. That's going to be the first thing I'm gonna put on the table. You can get rid of all these supervisors tomorrow, because we, as letter carriers, we've had this experience many, many, many times, and that's probably the same thing in your craft. If you show up to work and there's no supervisor there, guess what? The work still
Work's
gets
gonna
done.
get done.
Work still gets done. So I think we have to push toward that. How quickly we'll be able to get there, I don't know. And like I said, we're gonna utilize the other tools that we have in the interim. But that's the solution, man. That antagonism is completely unnecessary. You can smell it in these post offices. You walk in there and it's just this air, man. It's like dead air that you feel, and it's because of that antagonism. We're not all in there. We should all be there to provide the best service we can for the American people. We should all be working together and getting along. But because the supervisor is tasked with getting the most out of you that they possibly can, and you're just trying to do your job, that natural antagonism leads to so much stress and so much hostility in the workplace that that's really the source of it. And that's what we really have to go after. It won't happen overnight, but that's where we got to go.
A lot of the carriers walk into those facilities and they automatically, it's a dull environment. I delivered 80, 90 different stations on a consistent basis for many years.
Right.
And you walk in through those push doors, and there's no real good lighting. It's dull. There's mold. Fans are musty.
It's dirty.
The sky. It's a very dull feeling. The desks are dark brown. Everything, the old cases, everything there is, it's almost like a prison. It's almost like the back rooms
Well, they
of a
ask you,
prison.
how long you been in?
Mm,
How long you
yeah.
been? They're trying to ask you how long you've been an employee. How long you been in?
Yeah. So the thing is that the environment when they walk through isn't welcoming. But the management isn't welcoming. Not saying all management, but a majority of the time they're not welcoming as well. Is there really a way? Is there really a fight that could occur from the NALC to almost put a check on the nasty behavior? We're talking about the behavior of a lot of the supervisors, because some people will work and go beyond so long as they feel like they're appreciated. Some people do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's the person sitting behind the desk, and a lot of times they don't need to be there. Is there a way for our unions as a whole to say, look, enough of whatever this is, enough of this behavior? Because there's people being walked off, put off the clock, 7-day suspension, all of this. And there's very rare do you see anything happening to them. It is almost non-existent. I got a great postmaster buddy, my brother-in-law. He's the plant manager in the plant. I got so many people that sit in management, but they're different. But there's only a handful. But there's so many of them. You understand? There's so many of them around the country. That's just a handful. And I always tell them, when you get to the top, don't you change, because we ain't gonna sit at the table together the same. You know what I mean? We just can't. It just can't. You can't change. Is there a way for unions to help change that culture?
Yeah, and some of that could come down to some contract language, or some of it could come down to you put some systems in place. Like for example, in a particular post office, are you having regular meetings of the employees, craft management type meetings to discuss issues and things like that? And do those meetings have teeth to them? In other words, can you implement changes and force things upon the management team if they're not doing the right thing?
Mhm.
So and then contractually, I've never understood if you have a contract, you say these are the rules of the game. This is how we're going to operate together. You know, it's a joint contract. It's not just the union's contract. It's a joint contract. Why are the managers and supervisors not held accountable to those terms of the contract in the same way that we're held accountable for the job that we're supposed to do? That is their job, is to manage that operation under the terms of the contract. And if they can't do both, if they can't manage and manage under the terms of the contract, then maybe they shouldn't be a manager. And is there a way to write language in there that would require the Postal Service to remove a manager or bump them back down to the craft if they're not capable of doing that? Because it's not for everybody, right? You know, maybe that's not a skill set that they have, and we'll keep your route nice and warm for you, because if you're not going to be able to do the job as a manager in the right way, then you should come back, you know, you should come back to the craft. So maybe that's some, you know, maybe there's a way to write that language in as well. So, I mean, all options are on the table, man. In my opinion, this whole thing is broke. And when I say
Yes.
broke, it's not broke for the people that have been here for a long time, but it's broke for the people walking in the door. And if the
Yes.
people walking, if it's broke for the people walking in the door, then it's not sustainable, because there won't be no post office in 15, 20, and 30 years if you don't fix what's broke about, you know, the people walking in the door. So that's my philosophy on it. We got to do something here.
Because that's only about how many people voted yes on the contract?
The yes was 63,000, I think. Oh,
And
yes
what
was
the
26,000. I'm sorry.
and
No
what's
was
the what was
63,000.
the percentage?
The percent that voted yes was like 29%. Yeah,
There's about
29%.
29% that are on their way out the door as well.
Right. Yeah, and it is, the number is about the same. You're right.
It's almost the same.
Yeah.
There's about 29% that'll be without, well, maybe within the next 5 years, give or take. That's not the majority anymore. And
Right.
just like you
It's not.
said,
You're right.
those are the ones that say, yeah, well, we need to keep it the same. Those are the ones that are arguing in the chat. Well, they're not in this chat, I don't think. But those are the ones that are saying that the people are nonsensical for wanting change. But listen, I'm not going to hold you anymore. I truly appreciate you coming on here. You know, I'm going to send a message right out to Mr. Henry again. Say, hey, he's more than welcome to come back on here anytime he wants. I can't pre-pick the questions. I figured my chat group would be a little stronger. I thought they were going to be a little more asshole-ish. That was kind of the point. They were supposed to come on here with their, you know, guns blazing, but they spared you. They didn't ask
I
no
don't know
hard
why, man.
questions, man.
Well, you look, man, just either you can gather the questions, the real hard questions, and just kind of, you know, keep writing them down, and then, you know, I can come on another time, or maybe we just need to have a little more preparation, or, you know, we'll see as this thing goes on. I'm going to be accessible. I'm be available. So
No,
you let me
it's the
know if you
same
need me to
amount of
come
people
back
that they
on, or
usually
whatever
come
you need me
on.
to do.
They usually, this is about the same amount of people. There's over 1,200 people that came in and out. They they all I don't know why they get the opportunity. Y'all get the opportunity. You get the opportunity to go to your union meetings and you don't go. You get to the union hall, you stand in a corner. You get the option to talk to one of the people up top, you stay silent. You could bring a horse to the water, you can't make him drink. Come on now. You get the opportunity to express your frustration and get a straightforward answer without no bullshit. And I got to read your questions. Talk about it, baby. Let's talk about it. Oh man, James will probably hear about this because he has people watching. Corey, come on. He curse his ass off whenever he wants. You know, Caref, you the guy, whenever you want to come and talk. And to my postal family, I appreciate y'all coming on here. I wish y'all would have called. I thought there was gonna be a couple more. But I'm gonna let you close this one out, Mike. Speak to them. Talk to them.
All right, good people. So I'm doing the tour. I'm going around the country. So if you go to the website, careforprez.org, CAREF, the number 4, PREZ.org, you can go to the Kick the Tires tour, look at it, see where I'll be at. And if your area, your branch, or your city or whatever is not on that list, just contact the campaign or have have the president contact the campaign so I can get out there so you can truly kick the tires and find out. You know, it's all part of the process of figuring out who we want to be our next president. Don't despair. Things are rough right now within the NALC. We feel undervalued. We feel like our voice is not being heard by our current president, by our current leadership. But this is part of us taking back our union. And you know, any way I can help with that, just let me know. And I appreciate everyone sticking in the fight and doing what you do best, whatever that is, no matter if you think that's a small thing or a big thing or whatever. We need all the people that we can get. We're taking volunteers. You can go on the website and sign a little card and say, I want to help out. We're going to be doing fundraising all around the country. I need to raise probably about $300,000 to run a nationwide campaign. It's not going to be easy, but I feel like we can do it. The way we're going to do it is, you know, small donations from a lot of carriers that believe in what we're trying to accomplish here. So if you want to help out, we'd love to have you. I do have a lot of people, like I said, working on the campaign right now, and they're doing a great job. They're putting in as much work as I'm putting in. And we just want to put forth the best product possible for the members of the union and let the members of the union decide what they want to do from there. So that's all I got, my brother.
Next month, it'll be May. Sometime in May, for all of you that love Mr. Henry, I'm gonna send them the same message again. Next time in May, I want to have them both on, and I'm gonna have the donation button open. And whichever one of them y'all want to donate, because they both need funds to make it happen. And if only Caref comes on, donate whatever you can. No pizza from Chicago. It could be a New York pizza, but you know,
Now James better come, man.
yeah, there it
You
is.
put it like that, you know.
Whoever you know, comes on, I get them both on. Y'all donate to your cause, each of their causes. It's an open forum for them to talk to you.
I'll put a bug in his ear too, man. I you know, he needs to come on, like you said, and just, you know, take questions and comments from people.
100 people at $5 a pop. There's 1,000 people. You understand what I'm saying? There's 2,000, 3,000. Y'all can help build this thing up. If you really don't want Renfro in here, just make it happen. The obvious choice is to get Mr. Renfro out, and then let the two other gentlemen handle business. You see me? Got a little cough drop. That one's for you, Saeed. If you got the cough going, Saeed be coughing all the time.
It's wrestling time, man.
All right. Postal family, we love you. We'll chop it up later. And yeah, we out. Boom. Boom, boom, boom. Boom, boom, boom.